Okay, it's finally time to give you what you all wanted after so many videos of not being able to do it. Today, we're finally taking a look at King Kong by Erotic. I know, but look, I'm never gonna get to actually review the original King Kong, since every time I try, something happens. So, might as well do anything King Kong related that's not the actual King Kong. Let's pop this in and ring that gong, Kong! It worked. It worked! I actually got King Kong this time! The real one! The Kong is here! Yes, folks, I figured that if I purposely choose something other than King Kong, then something would happen to get me to review King Kong. So now, I can bring forth an old classic, just in time for its 90th anniversary. The original King Kong, written by Merian C. Cooper and Edgar Wallace, and directed by Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack, was originally conceived as far back as 1899. When 6-year-old Cooper was given a book by his uncle called Explorations and Adventures in Equatorial Africa. His fascination with stories involving gorillas, including one of extraordinary size, would end up influencing what would be known as King Kong. After joining Radio Pictures, otherwise known as RKO, he started to come up with an idea for a terror gorilla picture, with said gorilla fighting giant reptiles, being brought back to civilization, and eventually winding up on top of the world's tallest building at the time, as well as incorporating the theme of Beauty and the Beast for a more tragic element in the story's concept. His only obstacle was how to visualize this story and its title character. What he ended up doing to accomplish all this will be brought up as we go along. There's a lot to get into, but it's best to actually experience it firsthand. So without further ado, I present to you, my wonderful audience, the immortal 1933 classic, the original King Kong. We begin with an old Arabian proverb. And the prophet said, "And lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and it stayed its hand from killing, and from that day it was as one dead." In actuality, this proverb was thought up by Cooper himself. Either way, it sets the mood for the story we're about to see. We truly open in the Hoboken docks in New York Harbor, where we see a large tramp steamer known as the Venture, which we hear is going on a crazy voyage to shoot a moving picture, led by famed wildlife filmmaker Carl Denham.
Say he ain't scared of nothing. If he wants a picture of a lion, he just goes up to him and tells him to look pleasant.
Really? Sounds like a true badass if I ever heard one. Weston, the theatrical agent inquiring about this, is brought aboard by the Venture's able first mate, Jack Driscoll, played by Bruce Cabot, to meet the man himself. Denham, played by Robert Armstrong, is meant to basically be a self-insert of Merian C. Cooper himself, since his earlier films, like Chang, A Drama of the Wilderness, and Grass, would involve using real animals and local natives in order to tell a dramatic story. Speaking of, that piece of dialogue earlier about telling a lion to look pleasant was probably inspired by an actual event that took place during the shooting of Chang, where Ernest B. Schoedsack shot footage of wild tigers by climbing a tree, letting out a loud yell, and letting one of the tigers try climbing the tree after him, sticking its snarling face mere inches away from the camera lens. Like, geez, any wonder why they would eventually shy away from using animals in this manner? Naturally, Denham wants to make whatever he's filming worth it if he's carrying enough gas bombs to take down a herd of elephants.
When I don't get sore, Skipper, but you know what it means to run into the tropical rainy season when you're trying to make an outdoor picture. Months wasted, money gone, and nothing to show for it.
I will say, he's far more convincing as a filmmaker and hunter, rather than C.B. Denham from the mighty Kong. He actually sounds charismatic. We learn that he's having trouble getting an actress that can accompany him on his journey, due to him being, well, reckless and secretive. Also, despite not really wanting a woman along, he feels he needs to because of film critics and the need to have a pretty face in film. This is the 1930s, so it makes sense that this ideology toward women would be prominent. Having no choice, he goes out into New York City, and after a bit of searching, he ends up finding someone.
Haha, I catch you, you stealer!
I mean, she hasn't left the stand yet. How do you know she's not browsing? Either way, Denham pays for it, and after seeing how beautiful the girl is, realizes he has found his leading lady and takes her to a diner. When Denham inquires about who she is, the girl, named Ann Darrow, played by Fay Wray, tells him that she doesn't have any family to go to and how she used to act before being let off after the studio she worked at closed down. Well, it was the Great Depression and all, but at least the dialogue is simple and to the point. Unlike the Peter Jackson version that showcases every visual detail, I'll try not to bring up the other versions that came later, but there's no guarantee. Anyway, empathizing with her struggles and taking an interesting liking to Anne's somewhat cinematic quality and looks, Denham decides to offer her to be on the payroll.
What is it?
It's money and adventure and fame. It's the thrill of a lifetime and a long sea voyage that starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh boy, money! That sounds great. Wait, a long sea voyage? Yeah, Anne is naturally skeptical about this until Denham tells her who he is and that he's serious about what they're doing. Thus, Anne agrees to the gig as she and Denham head off to the venture and begin their adventure. The next morning, Anne meets Jack Driscoll, who doesn't notice her until...
Forward, you fireman, up here!
Ooh, ouch. Still a better introduction to their eventual love arc than how the Mighty Kong did it. Doesn't change his initial sexism.
I guess you don't think much of women on ships, do you?
No, they're a nuisance.
Well, I'll try not to be.
You've been on the way already.
Soon enough, the ship's horn blows and the venture casts off to parts unknown. A while later, we meet the ship's Chinese cook, Charlie, played by Victor Wong. He mostly had uncredited roles, likely due to the era of film that doesn't always credit marginalized actors.
Someday me go back China, never see no more potato.
Yeah, Charlie's dialogue hasn't aged very well, has it? And he has a pet monkey! Oh god, this is where chips came from? Well, at least Iggy here isn't annoying and is actually kinda cute. Anyway, Anne and Jack try talking to each other, and how everyone else treats her nicely, including Denham.
I'd hate to have him hear me say that.
Speaking of Denham, he really did withhold information about where exactly they're going until they reached a certain destination. I guess Mighty Kong did take a lot from this movie. Just did it poorly. Up on the bridge, Denham tells the ship's captain, Engelhorn, played by Frank Riker, how he received a map that was based on the dying testimony of a skipper to a Norwegian barge. I'll give them this. At least it is actually a map this time. He describes some details about the island, including its inhabitants, and a large wall built thousands of years ago that cuts off the Sami Peninsula from the rest of the island. A wall built to keep something in. But what?
Did you ever hear of Kong?
Why, yes. Some native superstition, isn't it? A god or a spirit or something.
Well, anyway, neither beast nor man. Something monstrous, all-powerful, still living, still holding that island in a grip of deadly fear.
This certainly explains why you brought all those gas bombs. As long as it doesn't become another Chang situation. After that, Denham does some screen tests with Anne in a very nice dress, while some of the crew watch. Just to further show how cool Denham seems to be.
Do you always take the pictures yourself?
Ever since the trip I made to Africa, I'd have got a swell picture of a charging rhino, but the cameraman got scared. That darn fool, I was right there with a rifle. Seems he didn't trust me to get the rhino before it got him. I haven't fooled with cameraman sense to do it myself.
God, he's so damn cool. Denham directs Anne to look paralyzed with fear, as if to show us some of her acting talent. Maybe this was Faye's actual screen test and they just decided to stick it into the cut?
Your arms across your eyes and scream, Anne. Scream for your life!
Aw, you broke it. It's a secret, but dang, no wonder Fay Wray was considered the first scream queen of cinema.
What's he think she's really gonna see?
A few days later, a heavy fog rolls over the ship, and as they pass through, they can hear the sound of what they think are breakers, but are actually jungle drums. Soon the fog lifts, and there before them lies none other than Skull Island, named for the large skull-shaped mountain looming in the distance. They're skeptical about what the natives are doing, if they know they're coming given the drums, and what will happen if they head over. Denham doesn't seem worried, and hell, he thinks he can get a perfect shot right away. Englehorn and Jack take Denham and the others over to the island, and find the village to be empty. That gate looks impressive to them, at least.
Might almost be Egyptian.
Yeah, but what's on the other side of that wall? That's what I want to know.
What do they got in there, King Kong?
As funny as that line is, the Skull Island gate actually did inspire the design of the gate seen in Jurassic Park. Upon further inspection, they soon find the island's natives, performing a strange ritual of some kind, with some of them wearing heavy fur on their arms and acting like gorillas. And true to his word, Denham starts filming like the crazy badass he is. The native chief, played by Noel Johnson, of course spots them, so Denham instructs his group to keep calm since the chief approaches them, wanting to know who they are. At least the skipper is able to communicate with them.
Malem, Ani Humya Vana.
Anasaba Kong!
I don't mind waiting this long for Kong, since they've done so well building him up. Right now, the current conflict is very tense and the pacing doesn't drag out, unlike the '76 and Peter Jackson remakes. The village witch doctor, played by Steve Clemente, yells at Denham and his crew to get out, accusing them of spoiling their ritual. The chief then notices Anne, specifically her blonde hair, and barters with the crew to trade 6 of his women for her. Obviously, they decline and politely leave, saying they'll come back tomorrow to make friends. After all, they still have a movie to shoot. That night, Jack and Anne talk about what happened today, and he makes it apparent that despite his earlier objections about women, he's starting to have feelings for her.
I'm scared for you. I'm I'm scared of you, too. And, say, I guess I love you.
Say what you will about Jack falling for Anne this soon, they at least had more time to interact with each other than in the Mighty Kong. No, I'm not letting that go. What the hell were they thinking when they rushed that relationship? And I guess the natives didn't want to wait a day for them to come back, since a small party, led by the witch doctor, sneaks about the ship and kidnaps Anne. But not before she pulls off one of their shell bracelets. No one notices until they hear drums and see torches on the island, and Charlie finds the dropped bracelet.
All hands on deck! Everybody on deck! Everybody on deck! Look, sir, me find on deck.
Native bracelet.
Crazy black man been here.
I'm not going to point out every act of racism in the movie, but yeah, it really didn't age well in that regard. Everyone begins to take action as they pack their guns, man the lifeboats, and head off to rescue Anne. On the island, the natives begin the ritual again, and just take a listen to the music here. The movie's score was composed by the legendary Max Steiner, who went on to write the music for such other classics as the original A Star is Born, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. The way the music gradually builds up along with the scene of the natives prepping Anne and opening the gate to reveal their sacrificial altar, it carries the scene all the way to what is sure to be a wicked reveal. It's no wonder why he's considered one of Hollywood's greatest musical composers. The natives then lead on up to the altar where she is bound by her wrists to prevent her escape, and as they flee back behind the wall and close the gate, the chief stands atop in front of the large gong, silencing them as he calls out into the jungle.
Karatane Gong!
Oh boy, here it comes, folks! The first ever on-screen appearance of quite possibly the greatest monster in cinema history. Let's see how it plays out. awesome! While the King Kong 76 was a bit overdone with how long it took to get to him, this was just right in terms of length and payoff. Anne's reactions were golden, and rightfully so, because this Kong definitely looks like a terror gorilla when you really look at it. It's at this point I think we can talk about the effects at work. As you just saw, this film makes use of stop-motion animation. This was done by special effects pioneer Willis O'Brien, who prior to King Kong worked on the effects and animation for such short films as The Dinosaur and The Missing Link in 1915, The Ghost of Slumber Mountain in 1918, and the 1925 feature-length adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. Assisting O'Brien would be sculptor and model maker Marcel Delgado, who came up with the technique of building metal skeletons and armatures for stop-motion puppets, rather than simply using clay, which was difficult to adjust during shots. Not only did he build the two 18-inch stop-motion puppets used for Kong, but also a life-sized bust of Kong's head for close-up shots of his face, as well as a life-sized hand prop for close-up shots of him clutching Anne in his grasp, and even a life-sized foot prop for... well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Point is that this intro to one of Hollywood's greatest monsters changed the game of cinema forever. Despite Anne freeing herself, she ends up tripping and Kong catches her. Now she too has become a stop-motion puppet. At least the natives look happy. Jack and the others show up too late as they watch Kong take her away. Half the crew goes in after them, while the other half fights the natives. Now begins the hunt to find Anne, in a jungle set that's actually reused from another Cooper Showed Shack production, The Most Dangerous Game. During the pursuit, they come across one of Kong's giant footprints. But if they think that's impressive, wait till they get a load of this.
Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur! Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
Hey, you can't beat the classics! Still, for the time, it's very impressive to have films feature creatures of this scale be shown in the same frame as real people, using a technique known as rear screen projection on this particular sequence. Think of it as a prototype to green screen, or even high-quality projected digital backgrounds you see in The Mandalorian.
God, he's still alive. Shoot!
Not sure why you bothered killing it when it was already knocked out. This really is turning into another Chang. Next, the rescue party comes to a swamp, and after hearing Kong wading through the water, they build a raft out of some sticks and paddle after him. Unfortunately, they cross paths with a brontosaurus, which knocks them over and even bites into a few of them. Interesting tidbit here, this scene was said to have inspired the infamous surgeon's photo of the Loch Ness Monster taken in 1934. Though I do find it odd for a brontosaurus to be so vicious, as it is common knowledge that the animal in real life was an herbivore. Then again, it might just be very territorial, since it chases them onto land. Make that territorial and bloodthirsty! Either way, these giant creatures are entertaining with how they're executed. They soon find Kong, and we get the famous log bridge scene where the rescue party gets trapped on the log while Kong tries shaking them off. One by one, they fall into the chasm below, with Kong dropping the entire log bridge after them, while the only survivors seem to be Jack, who used a vine to climb into an opening in the side of the chasm, and Denim, who got his sleeve caught on a tree branch earlier. Yeah, I suppose we can talk about that scene. Now, in the original script for the movie, after Kong shakes all the sailors off the log, what would happen next is that the survivors of the fall would all be attacked and killed by an array of giant creatures, including a spider, crab, some lizards, and what can only be described as an octopus insect. Photos of this scene, known by Kong enthusiasts as the Spider Pit sequence, first emerged in a mid-1960s issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine by Forrest J. Ackerman, and got people to think that it might still be intact somewhere. There were many theories going around as to why the scene was cut in the first place, from test audiences finding it too horrific and shocking, to Cooper saying that it just stopped the story dead in its tracks. Whatever the reason, the Spider Pit sequence has gone down in history as one of the most infamous and sought after pieces of lost footage from any monster movie. Seriously, everybody and their mother practically knows about this deleted scene. However, according to new evidence that has recently come up, the Spider Pit sequence was never actually filmed. Yeah, all the evidence points to the photos of the scene being test shot pictures before the cameras rolled, and that Cooper was very much an exaggerated storyteller when recounting the film's elaborate production. Not to worry, Loki, because in the 2005 DVD release of the movie, there was a special feature that includes a recreation of the Spider Pit scene, as done by Peter Jackson and his crew at Weta Workshop. It honestly looks impressive, as if it was made with traditional stop-motion techniques in order to have it appear seamlessly with the corresponding scenes before and after it. You can even see that one two-legged lizard scaling up the wall like in the final product. Anyway, while Anne waits in the tree where Kong put her, a hungry Tyrannosaurus Rex arrives and sets its eyes on the venerable morsel. Hearing Anne's screams of terror, our wondrous ape quickly races to the rescue and engages the tyrant Lizard King in an epic battle. And I do mean epic. I gotta say, this fight scene is just pure awesomeness. The way the T-Rex tries biting at Kong but is unable to, Kong flipping it over his shoulder like a wrestler, it's very exciting to say the least. I should note at this point that the T-Rex and other dinosaurs we've seen were based on the artwork by Charles R. Knight, and I gotta say, they look pretty spot on, even if they only reflect fossil records at the time. However, what was up with giving the Stegosaurus 4 extra spikes on its tail? That's just weird. Eventually, after much struggling and a close call with Anne's tree being knocked over, Kong continues to hold off his rival King of the Jungle with another memorable moment by ripping apart the T-Rex's jaws! Now, as awesome as that was, it would be interesting to know that there weren't originally any dinosaurs in Cooper's vision of the story. Instead, they were originally part of an unfinished film project by Willis O'Brien and Lost World director Harry O'Hoyt, called Creation. The story would have revolved around passengers of a luxury yacht and the crew of a Chilean naval submarine becoming shipwrecked on a volcanic island inhabited by dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. Unfortunately, the feature was scrapped by then studio head David O. Selznick and Marion C. Cooper, because they found the story boring due to a lack of action. The only surviving production elements of the movie are the original outline written by O'Brien and a 5-minute long piece of test footage that he shot, featuring one of the shipwrecked passengers shooting a baby Triceratops, with its mother becoming enraged and chasing after him. However, Cooper was so impressed by O'Brien's test footage that he immediately hired him to work on the special effects for his Terror Gorilla movie, then titled The Beast, and to bring over all the dinosaur puppets that were originally made for his canceled movie. And it's a good thing too, since Cooper's original idea of capturing live gorillas and having them fight Komodo dragons on miniature sets seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. Seriously, it's stuff like this that animal protection guidelines were made for, so they aren't killed for the sake of film. At any rate, Jack and Denham, now on opposite sides of the ravine, go over their plan. Jack intends to continue after Anne and wants Denham to get more bombs and prepare the other party for in case Kong comes back. In the meantime, Kong takes Anne into his lair inside Skull Mountain. Immediately after putting her aside for only a moment, she gets attacked. Again! This time by a plesiosaur. You'd think that, with the way it wraps around Kong and all, but if you look real closely, you can see its flippers. Kong struggles for a bit as the creature tries constricting him, though eventually he manages to pry it off and bash it against the wall. Next, Kong takes Ann onto a ledge, where he seems to show interest in her by peeling her clothes off. Dude, what do you think she is? A banana? Oh, shut up. Jack accidentally breaks off a large piece of rock, which makes a noise and catches Kong's attention. While he's distracted, Ann gets attacked. Again! This time, it's by a pteranodon. While that's happening, Jack finally gets to Ann and decides to carry her down by vine. Except Kong spots them and starts pulling them back up. They both end up dropping down, and upon watching this, both came pretty close to hitting their heads on the cliffside before hitting the water. They otherwise traverse through the jungle as fast as they can and make it to the giant gate where the rest of the party is waiting for them. With everyone regrouped, they all need to get the hell out of here. Unfortunately, Kong is spotted coming toward them, and with some help from the natives, they manage to lock the gate. However, if you remember my co-review of the '76 remake with Big Jack Films, you know how well this turns out. Oh no, a small child! Save them! That giant bust is really getting a lot of use. And remember that giant foot prop I mentioned before? Well, that's one way to get a mud bath. Once they get Kong to the beach, Denim throws a gas bomb at him, and after a moment, he falls unconscious. It is here where Denim announces to everyone that he plans to take Kong back to civilization with them, saying that the whole world would pay to see him.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months it'll be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world!
That's one hell of a speech he just gave. Thus, we come to the Kong in New York portion of the story, with Kong's name up in lights on Broadway, just as Denim promised, and hundreds of people flocking to see the giant monster he is advertising. Jack and Ann are both dressed fancy, while Denim happily brings in the press to share their story.
Beauty and the Beast, huh? That's it. Play up that angle. Beauty and the Beast. Kong could have stayed safe where he was, but he couldn't stay away from beauty. That's your story, boys.
The story isn't over yet, though. First, we have the big reveal of Kong to the public as Denim proudly walks onto the stage and addresses the crowd.
He was a king and a god in the world he knew. But now he comes to civilization, merely a captive, a show to gratify your curiosity. Ladies and gentlemen, look at Kong, the eighth wonder of the world.
What a sight this is. It is telling that this is how humanity would treat such a magnificent beast. And much to their hubris, the flashing cameras from the press begin to enrage Kong, making him think they're attacking Ann, resulting in... So much for those chrome steel chains, eh, Denim? Everyone panics and starts to run away. Jack and Ann escape into a hotel, while Kong breaks out onto the streets and causes all sorts of chaos. If you thought Kong's body count was high while on the island, then just wait to see what he does in a populated area. As Jack tries calming Ann down in their hotel room, Kong manages to find them as he breaks his hand through a window, knocks out Jack, and takes Ann in his grasp. Jack and Denim are powerless and can only watch, as Kong causes more damage to the city, including... Now, while the 1976 remake did this pretty well in how destructive Kong could be, plus it inspired Universal Studios to produce a whole ride after this, there's just something about the original that's very satisfying, with how compact everyone is inside the train cars being pushed together and falling on top of one another. I also like the little detail of people escaping the underside of one car while Kong smashes it in. Meanwhile, at the police station, Jack and Denim learn that Kong is now climbing the Empire State Building with Ann in hand. they come up with an idea to use airplanes to shoot at him after he puts Ann down. As they make their way over and the planes begin taking off, we see Kong climbing the side of the building. Really puts into perspective the size difference between Kong, a large gorilla, and one of the tallest buildings in the world. To think that Toho would put him on par with Godzilla in terms of size when he was one of the largest monsters ever conceived. As the planes begin circling the building, we get a close-up shot of one particular plane where the film's directors themselves make an uncredited cameo appearance, with Cooper playing the pilot up front and Shostak playing the gunner in the back. Interesting to note that both served as fighter pilots during World War II, so this furthers how this is one big autobiography of Cooper in a sense. As for the cameo itself, Cooper was quoted to have said, "We made him, we may as well kill the son of a bitch ourselves." That's funny. Now just hope nobody decides to try and revive him with an artificial heart with blood from a second giant ape. Once Kong does set Ann down, the gunners begin to shoot at Kong in one of the most memorable climaxes in film history. Okay, I find it funny that no one can hit this giant gorilla that's just standing there swinging at them. Of course, there's always a price to be had with flying in too close. But finally, they do start getting hits on him, and Kong slowly starts to lose his strength. In his last moments, he picks up Ann for the last time, looks at her with sad eyes, before putting her back down, and... Oh, now you all make it up to the top. At any rate, the crowds gather round the body of the giant ape as Denham shows up to deliver one last memorable line.
Well, Denham, the airplanes got him.
Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
That was amazing. Out of all the Kong-based media I've seen so far, I would dare say that this one, even as just a film in general, is a near-perfect movie in regards to, well, everything. The story was very well paced, in that it established our main cast, got us over to the island, built up to the reveal of the titular monster, and then have said monster carry us through the rest of the way with an adventure through Skull Island and its many dangers, all before having him rampage through New York that shows what can happen when man exploits nature for the spectacle and exotic wonder before they put down Kong for being him. The main cast was highly enjoyable. Robert Armstrong as Denham was very charismatic, Bruce Cabot as Jack was a good foil to him, and Fay Wray as Ann was exceptional in the way of acting. Kinda wished she had a bit more development, but beyond that, she played the part well. As for Kong himself, he certainly felt more animalistic than the 1976 version, at least as far as behavior. Even when regarding how he handled Ann, it felt like genuine curiosity rather than romance or full captivation that some adaptations imply. He still had a desire to protect her, and would fight literally anything to do that. He was an original badass Kong, made to look slightly more menacing than a real gorilla, but still looks sympathetic when it really matters. The technical aspects for the time are still impressive even now, whether it was their custom sets, to how they integrated the stop-motion animation. For 1933, this felt groundbreaking in what is possible in filmmaking. While films continue to evolve in how they're made, this is a hallmark that is well worth looking back upon. Now, as to what happened to all the stop-motion models, one of the two Kong armatures currently resides with movie paraphernalia collector and gorilla suit actor Bob Burns, who actually almost got to play King Kong in a planned remake by Universal in 1975 that never got made, due to a lawsuit over the Paramount film. It recently starred in a short film called Steel in Love, made by Tom Woodruff Jr. in 2017, which is hauntingly sweet, to be honest. As for the other Kong armature and all the dinosaurs, they were originally collected by Forrest J. Ackerman, but after his death in 2008, half of them were bought by Peter Jackson, while the others were donated to various museums. As it grossed over $5 million at the box office, and even more during re-releases and rentals. Plus, it led to many more films. Literally in the same year, we had a sequel, Son of Kong, also by RKO, the Dino De Laurentiis remake and its sequel, the Peter Jackson remake with Universal Pictures, and presently we have Legendary Pictures doing their own run of Kong, combining him with the overall Monsterverse with Godzilla, which of course is like with how Toho did their own movies with King Kong in the 1960s, and don't get me started on the knockoff movies. Alright. Point is, King Kong was a big deal. It's even part of the Library of Congress for how culturally significant it is. People still talk about King Kong to this day, and we're about to get another Kong and Godzilla film, and you better believe I'm gonna see it. Many will, all because of one film that helped make it happen. It has inspired some of the greatest filmmakers alive today, and it still continues to inspire future filmmakers even 90 years after its original release. It truly is worth watching, so if you haven't already, get on it. It's got all the action and mystery you can ever want. Hail to the king, baby! I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey, and reviewing them my way. What, you expected Big Jack Films to show up? He's on vacation. Let him get his rest.